Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Spotlight, brought to you by the Georgetown NAACP Branch number 5520. I'm going to be joined by my co-host, and we got a lot to talk about as usual: affordable housing, Medicaid expansion, and what's going on with abortion in the state of South Carolina. And of course, we'll keep you up to date with different events coming up in the area that we thought may be interesting to you. So we're going to jump right on it right after this opening.
Heavenly Father, we ask you to put a hand of protection.
And we're back. Let's go ahead and get right into it, folks. Drop your comments in the comment section. Drop your questions in the comment section, and we'll try to get to your comments and questions. I am now joined by Marvin Neal, president of the Georgetown NAACP number 5520. Good morning, Marvin.
Hey, good morning, Marilyn. It's good seeing you.
All right, we're rolling. I'm kind of blended into this background here. I just realized it. Yeah, y'all. I'm traveling, but we got to do the business of the NAACP. So this is my turn to host this week, to be the main host, and make this happen. So we're here, and there's a lot to talk about. So, we're doing an affordable housing program, folks, and we're out here doing what we need to do to make sure folks are taken care of. Affordable housing is a serious problem in Georgetown, the state, and, of course, the nation. And we're out here doing the work. So, Marvin, any updates about our affordable housing program that we need to know about?
Well, what's happened yesterday, just the housing assistant program, which we spoke, at length with during the coordinators meeting with the branch on yesterday at 1001 Church Street, Front Street. The whole state is challenged with affordable housing. I think we know that. And she is out of the Pamplico area, which they're having the same issues there and stuff. So affordable housing is not, the lack of affordable housing is not new to us. The challenge is, how do we get affordable housing under the conditions and the electric that we have now that's in place in Georgetown, the county and the city, because it seems as though there's a challenge on both hands, within the city limits of Georgetown there and the county and stuff. And in conjunction with that, people just losing their homes based on the living conditions and the lack of salaries and stuff that affects it also. Evictions going on right now. We're working through that. With the new housing assistant program, we have the rental people being moved out, especially out of the Green Acres Trailer Park. We had a lot of people that came through from there that they're supposed to be doing some renovation, but they're yet issues with trying to get people in other housing until it happened. They said it'd be a 1 month term. That now you're looking at people looking for hotel stay for family members and those that's sick and shut in and stuff of that nature on oxygen. There's just so much challenges that we're dealing with right now as it relates to affordable housing and the availability of housing.
There is, and I went through that with a friend recently, and I knew how they just say this. Intellectually, you know about the problem. I know affordable housing is a problem, but to see it in action, to actually see it, it hit me again, and it was an eye-opening experience, and he ended up getting help, and his situation ended up turning out all right. But the lack of inventory for housing, just to get people in, that's lacking. But what I've also learned, and I knew this is, and you've kind of talked about it already, but the lack of affordable housing is complex and complicated and nuanced. It impacts. It is impacted by low income. So now that you're speaking of minimum wage, the minimum wage $7.25. You can't even get into an apartment at $7.25. So you're already in the hole. So while you're in the hole, you're trying to get out of the hole. Then once you're out of the hole, you're trying to get stable. And to get stable, you need a roof over your head.
Yeah.
So you digging that hole is just digging. So that ends up with people working 2, 3, 4 jobs. And if they're a family, if they have children, now you're not there for your children. The kids just went back to school. Mom, dad, you're working 2 or 3 jobs just to keep yourself out of the hole and keep that roof over your head if you can find it. So now this speaks that we need a living wage. We need a living wage. And we need elected officials who understand that. And they need to move in a way, and you need to listen to what they say. So when you have elected officials who say this is not about income, it's always about income. What are you paying the people? Even if you can't vote on a federal minimum wage, an elected official locally and state can call their state officials, or they can call their federal officials and say, I support a living wage. This is how it works. Not only by your vote, by making phone calls. And if you hear an elected official who doesn't talk nuanced, who doesn't realize that a living wage helps with affordable housing, they don't need to be your elected official. Healthcare, it impacts healthcare. It's easier to have a roof over your head and get access to healthcare if you have a roof over your head, because then if you have a roof over your head, maybe you can get a computer, maybe you can get broadband internet access, then you can talk to your doctor over the internet. All of this stuff works together, and it's why it's very important that the NAACP, we're dealing with the crisis of affordable housing. Making sure people stay sheltered. If they're not sheltered, making sure they find a place to be sheltered. That's the crisis part of it. But the long-term solution is addressing minimum wage, addressing health care, addressing who you vote for and who is an elected official. Those are the long-term solutions to affordable housing.
In Maryland, you hit everything. You put everything in a wedding band effect there, because when you talk for one, it affects the other. We have had individuals walked in this week just for assistance that have moved closer to their job so they can walk from one job to the next to keep from buying gas because they can't afford it. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to keep a roof over their head. They're cutting back on one thing by trying to collaborate 2 jobs, within the same region where they can walk to it. And you're talking about children that's in school. You move from one school district to the next in the middle of the school year, just starting off, and you're juggling, children again. They inherit, you have another setback, especially in Title I areas. Then you have the individuals right now and stuff that just can't find housing, and these people are not walking in. That's not working. Majority of the people that we have seen, they are working families that just need additional assistance because of the impact of what happens when we don't take elections seriously and we elect wrong people in these positions. And the city is huge for it. We are functioning right now in the city of Georgetown, 1001 Front Street. And that's where majority of our constituents are coming from. And just the things that they talk about, the impact of electrical bills going up, utility, water bills, these things, up to cleaning out a trash can, you get fined $1,000 if you don't clean your trash cans on so many different times. All these things are impactful, so, election have consequences, and these are the consequences of election, so don't sit back and say your vote don't count, because those that say that, we had some that walked in this week that did not vote in the last city election, in the last mayor's election. And the impact of that is showing up right now. So, the key is vote. Voting is the key right now, and we're going to be talking about voting a little later coming up in our next segments, as we lead into the voting season. But it is huge that we vote. and know and be educated on those that you're voting for. We are doing door hangers coming up around the from mid to the end of October. We're going to be dropping on doors in the different areas, and the areas that's really been impacted by people not voting. You know, housing authority in these areas on the west side of Georgetown, not just the west end, the western side of Georgetown, because that's where we heard at in our electric base here when we are electing officials. We have that kind of council race that's coming up, the 7th district. That is a huge race. Don't take that race lightly, because we could end up in the same situation as the city of Georgetown. People sound good doing elections, but after elections and stuff is when it impacts you. Look at the record of those that's in office versus those that's applying to run for office. You know, because I hear, you know, on one side they talk about, yeah, we're going to get you broadband. HTC is already in the area bringing broadband in the western side of Georgetown. So that's an issue. That's no longer an issue. It's just time-based right now. So no one should be running on the platform that we're going to bring you broadband. You know, broadband is already on the way because it's already in Plantersville. They're already looking at Browns Ferry. I saw them down there the other day digging and stuff. So those are things that people are just talking about to get in the office. Okay, they're talking about fire safety and fire hydrants in there. You know, that's on the way in the western side of Georgetown. The majority of Choppy and those already have fire hydrants. There's the Plantersville area, and some funds have been allocated already. So be careful on those who say they're going to get you that, because election have consequences. And be careful on those, and make sure you ask that question: aren't that's going on right now, or why isn't it going on to the opponent? You know what I'm saying? We're not sitting there talking about who you should vote for, but understand what's going on right now versus what you need.
That's
Affordable
right.
housing been rejected on the western side of Georgetown. Okay, but
That's
those
right.
things are still being fought for through the county council. So all these voices that you're hearing, be careful what goes into your ear, and be careful what you jump onto. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to get everything the same time. You talk about roads improvement. They have more money for roads now than they ever had. The problem we have now is finding people to work. Because what happened during the recession, and when we did have money before that sales tax that Ronnie Sabs was one of the sponsors of, Senator Sabs, before that tax was pushed through, we didn't have funding. So the people moved to Georgia and North Carolina, those that worked on the roads. So they're trying to get some of this back now. And it's going to take time. And I see some of the improvements going with the roads right now. So be very careful. Ask, what are you going to do new, or what's going on right now that's going to impact our lives, okay? And be careful how people bring in these different zoning and stuff into your area, because that's impactful, you know. Because, you know, people could bring in housing units. Yeah, we're going to help the area grow. But don't be grown out of your area with housing that the people that live there cannot afford. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to pump in votes and like Donald Trump is trying to buy Norway because we're looking for more white folks and stuff like that. No, we look for folks for housing that's affordable for those that lives here. You know, we're not trying to build a tourist area. We're trying to make sure that the people in our area have places that they can live, affordable places that they can afford. So those are some of the things that we just have to be careful with. And those are the consequences of election that we're dealing with.
Yes, it is. And I'm pulling up our Facebook page where you can see our flyer with the phone number, and I'll put that phone number, scroll it down the rest of the show. This is our emergency housing assistance. If you are in danger of eviction, you're looking for housing, call 843-790-4075, 843-790-4075, so that we can help you out. That's why we're here. And to help yourself, vote, folks. You got to vote. You got to vote.
In
So,
Maryland,
yes.
oh, one more thing on dealing with the housing assistant, the emergency housing assistance. People need to understand also when they get these eviction notices, that don't mean you have to walk out of your home and start putting your stuff on the side of the street. That means you have 10 days to contest it in the magistrate's court, in the civic court. So please take that notice and go down to Cleveland Street at the magistrate court and file for contestant of that within that 10-day period. Because after that, you get a notice of rejection, which you have to be out in 24 hours. So be very careful how you look at that, because we're getting that also. A lot of people come in and said, I have 1 day to move out of my place. And here they are juggling, trying to figure out what are they going to do next. You know, living in a hotel where it's even higher to live. You know, it's family members trying to juggle that, and children in school and stuff of that nature. So be very careful of that. We have housing assistance going right now at 1001 Front Street in Georgetown. Go to the back of the building, 1001 Front Street, across from Wells Fargo Bank. And they'll assist you right now up until 2:30 today. And we'll come back next week again, from Wednesday through Saturday, from 10 o'clock in the morning up until 2:30, the last appointment. So please go and get help, because it works. The program works. This is not new. We have done right at about 200 applications so far, just helping people get assistance and just helping them put the applications in the system. We are not responsible for following up once the application is put into the system. That's the responsibility of the individual. Make sure you get your SC number so you can follow up. We have that issue also. People come back to, well, I can't get through, and they're asking for a number. Make sure you don't leave that office without an SC number so you can follow up. And it's not hard. You have to wait a little time on the phone time, but you will get a response.
Good. And yes, that's very good. And how long are we doing this? Through December right now?
We're doing this through December of this year. So you know, don't sit back and wait until December though. If you're back on your rent, you're back on your utilities, you're being evicted, please come out and see us so we can help get you some assistance. You know, we work with the different entities. And also with that same service, we have collaborated with, and this program comes through the United Way, collaborate with the state of South Carolina, NAACP, and the local branches in certain counties. And also we have collaborated, the state has collaborated with 7th Dimension of Georgetown, which is located at 1001 Front Street. And what they're doing a statewide service on social service referral program, which involves SNAPs, which is EBT card, Medicaid assistance, senior services, extra help, and just helping them find resources, from diapers to milk to whatever your needs are. Please come and see us at 1001 Church Street. And when we move to the other areas of the county, Georgetown and Williamsburg County, we'll be working in Williamsburg also in the next coming week, which will start in Williamsburg on the 21st, through the 24th, we'll be in Bloomingdale. But we will always have one person at 1001 Church Street. We maintain continuity in this area because this is the largest area that's being affected, which is Georgetown and Georgetown County. I just want to say that.
Very good. All right, folks, we'll keep the number scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If you need housing assistance, call 843-790-4075. And we also we kind of talked about how complex and nuanced the affordable housing issue is, and it does impact healthcare. And we wanted to bring to your attention that once again, the current state administration has rejected the expansion of Medicaid. And Medicaid is a healthcare service provided by the federal government. And I don't think people really realize that this started under Nikki Haley, former Governor Nikki Haley, who has dreams of running for president one day. So keep that in mind. But she rejected 90%. So originally, the federal government was going to give 100% of the funds to expand Medicaid in the state. Then over a 3-year period, they were dialing it back to 90%, and the state would have to make up the 10%. Well, Nikki Haley and her party rejected that on grounds that they didn't want people relying on Medicaid, like it was an entitlement. And that's our tax money, folks, being used to serve the people of our states. And since then, those who have been in charge of this state have continuously rejected Medicaid. And people have died because they could not afford to get health care, basic health care, but also they had conditions that probably could have been corrected if Medicaid had been expanded. And you don't have to take my word for it that people have died. There have been newspaper stories in the Post and Courier, definitely, because I've read them, where they've tracked people who have died because if they had only gotten that Medicaid expansion, it could have treated their condition and they would have lived a little bit longer. So what's the most recent information, Marvin, that you've been hearing about this rejection of Medicaid expansion?
Well, Marilyn, you pretty much said it in a nutshell. It's been rejected again. By this Republican Senate and House and stuff. It's been filibustered. And again, we are dealing with the same thing here that we have to be so careful of election again. We have a governor's race that's coming up, which is very impactful on the state. You mentioned Nikki Haley. She was the former governor prior to Governor Mike Master, which is sadly that we continue to bring people in place. And the mindset of these Republican governors and those that's in place since Nikki Haley, we have to tell it, bring truth to action. Their mindset is that Black people and people of color is taking advantage of this system. Medicaid don't only affect us. Rejection don't only affect Black people. It affects people that's in need, that don't have the capability, to afford medical and health situations and stuff that's affecting them. So we have to be so careful how we go out there and say, and I see people out there with these signs, vote for this one and vote for that one. You're voting away your health care. You're voting away those things that keep you healthy and give you a lifestyle that you can live with, a comfortable lifestyle. And people are not asking for any more than what they are giving. These are tax-paying dollars. Federal dollars, 90% of the money was federal dollars that's being rejected. We need to think about that. That's money, that's your tax money that you already paid into the system. So, and believe me, they're trying to stop Medicare. Someone's trying to stop veterans benefit and all kinds of stuff.
So they want to privatize Social Security, which that's our money, folks. It's not money that they're making up and just giving to people. We pay into Social Security and it supports the current generation that has retired. So coming behind you are the people who are putting money into the system now that supports you when you retire and need that Social Security. So basically, it's a huge amount of money that they've taken some of that money to pay bills in other areas. They're now saying, well, Social Security isn't working. Well, if they stop taking the money out of Social Security to pay bills in other areas, Social Security would be fine. It would be fine. So they're using that excuse. They've created a problem, now using it as an excuse to privatize Social Security. Once you privatize Social Security, the people who are playing with your money on Wall Street are going to demand fees. They're creating wealth with our money. All right. So that means benefits will be cut. So these rich folks can get richer. You do not want Social Security privatized. All right. Right now, it is run by the government that provides a service. Government is not to make a profit. It's to run a service. Social Security is working the way it's supposed to work. Do not listen to what people are saying, folks. Don't fall for the propaganda. Don't fall for the propaganda. It's not, yes, Medicaid, Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits are all on the line because they're just people who don't believe government should do what it's supposed to do, provide the service to the people.
But Marilyn, just think about it. During the election, veterans and the support of veterans and uniform force servicemen, it's always the top priority. We support our veterans. We support our, police, and we support them. But yet still those things that help keep those areas intact and make sure that America's a safer place and our streets is a safer place, once they get in office, they try to cut it. They try to cut it. You know, and I'm just going to briefly go back to affordable housing. Affordable housing was for policemen that lives in the area. You talk to the sheriff office, you talk to the police office in Georgetown, you talk to the school district. They have challenges finding housing for teachers, firemen, policemen, and deputies. Exactly. That's what affordable housing does. And if you think about the Wedgefield situation that was voted out, you know, that's a sad situation. That was 90 units voted out for people that could have been living right here in Georgetown. But I always wondered why these sheriff cars and police cars are parked at the homes in the country. Now I see why. That's the only benefits that they can give some of these guys to help subsidize a lack of income. You know, and you have firemen, policemen, nurses, and all them, and teachers still staying at home with mom because there's nowhere for them to stay. That's affordable. You know, that is a sad state that we are in. And you have people voting out, county councilmen, voting out affordable housing. That was public housing because of the location where we're going, which was on Wedgefield Road. And that's a situation we're dealing with right now. So elections have consequences.
They most certainly do.
And be careful who you vote for in this next county council election. Because affordable housing is an issue, and it's the fight to get affordable housing back in Georgetown. Believe me, everybody's not fighting for it.
And I think people also need to understand, Marvin, that we have to be very strategic and deliberate and intentional in addressing these problems, these challenges that we face. They all can be overcome, but if you understand it, whoever you elect into office has to be very deliberate. They just can't say, oh, vote me in, we're going to get affordable housing. What is their plan? Ask them.
There you go.
What are their plans? Because they're very deliberate about making sure developers get land.
Yep.
To put housing on that's not affordable. That's very deliberate. They have discussions. They know who they're dealing with. They deal with these folks and they help them get what they want. That's very deliberate. So to solve the challenge of affordable housing, rejection of Medicaid expansion, these challenges that we have listed, you have to elect people who will be very deliberate in solving these challenges that we face. Don't fall for the old okie doke. Oh, we're going to address affordable housing. What's your plan? You can ask people if they have a plan, even if they tell you, hey, something as simple as, there are grants out there that can help us provide affordable housing. I will work with other elected officials to make sure that when we pass certain ordinances, maybe we give tax credits to developers that set aside 20% for affordable housing. Because we're not against business. We're not against job creation. We are pro affordable housing, and that's different. All right. So you need to ask people these questions. What's your plan? Be very deliberate. Excuse me. Good morning, Sophia, to you also. And thank you for joining us. Make sure you drop your questions and comments in the comment section.
And Marilyn, you hit on something there. You said deliberate. Just look at the attempt to put affordable housing, put housing, 456 units, right in the Plantersville section of Georgetown. And you were talking about this was going to be gated community, which is not affordable. Then you talk about property owners association fee, which is not affordable. They're putting these things out there. And these are the areas that you have to really pay attention to. And that's when you start pumping people to come into your community, pretty much to gentrify your community, because your tax base and everything will go up. I don't care how you look at it. So we have to be careful on who says and what are they saying, and ask that question. How is this affordable to this community and where we are right now with the median income of this community and the people that actually lives in the area of Georgetown? That's the challenges that we have right now is education, the educational piece we have to continue to do, and we're going to continue to do that on Spotlight. Because even now we talking about $15 an hour. We was pushing for the school board, You know, it's even higher now. That was just a number. But actually, the livable wage actually is right at between 16.56 and $18 an hour. You know, so they're not doing us any favor by saying, "Oh, we're gonna give you $13 an hour." Yeah, school district and $11 an hour at the county council. At least county council went ahead and pushed theirs up to $11 an hour. But the school district, we had to fight for it. Because when we spoke at the budget meeting, the person that was presenting the budget, when the question was asked, you know, why can't we get the $15 an hour? The person was reporting the budget said, we never thought about it. So what does that say to the people? We never thought about you. But those that's presenting the budget, they're making $140,000 to $160,000 a year. Their children are fine. As a matter of fact, their children are even being put into the school district, you know, and getting nice salary, positions created. So that's what we have to be very careful about, who we put in these positions, you know, because it has its consequences.
Yes, it does. On many issues. We also have an issue that's a very, very hot button issue that's been under attack for about 50 years now. But the abortion issue has been under debate in our House and Senate in South Carolina. So let me kind of. So this week, our House passed a very restrictive abortion bill and sent it to the Senate. Then the Senate committee, which I'm looking for a picture, y'all, because there's a picture of the Senate Medical Affairs Committee of South Carolina, and it is all old white men determining something that's going to impact more than 50% of this state. All right, that's women, and they wanted. One, it's very restrictive. They're trying to get rid of abortion, period. But removing exceptions to rape and incest. And if you don't think this happens, folks, you need to wake up really fast. Rape and incest happens every day in this state, in this country. What else, Marvin? They were doing very restrictive this week.
Wow, this week, you know, in Bill 5399, you know, what it states, you know, in Section 41-630 says it only happens if the pregnancy is a result of rape, the pregnancy is a result of incest, and the physician is acting in accordance with Section 44-41-690, which they're talking about. These incests are fatal anomaly. What are they talking about now, Marilyn? To break it down, the physician shall preserve the DNA sample from the fetus, remain and notify the sheriff's office in the county in which the abortion was performed. Now, you just gave away, you know, what happened to HEPA law right now. You know, you giving information about an individual, that's a medical, to the sheriff's office. The sheriff so transmits the sample into evidence within 90 days of notification. The sample shall be held as evidence to provide for the preservation and the evidence acting, beginning with a person who violated subsection A is guilty of a felony and upon conviction must be fined $10,000 in prison or no more than 2 years. But the thing is, Marilyn, what they're talking about is locking up doctors. You know what I'm saying? Then it comes back and says that fetal anomaly means that it is reasonable medical judgment that the unborn child has profound the irremediable congenital or chromosomal or normal that with or without the provision of life-preserving treatment would be incompatible with sustaining life after birth. Rape has the same meaning as criminal sexual conduct, regardless of the degree of criminal sexual conduct. See, they're trying to mix apples with oranges here. You know, criminal sexual conduct. You know, we could take that to just the situation that happened at Ball Q. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, it unfounded. You know, so what you say, you know, you have these laws being made by double white men, old white men, trying to take things back to where they used to be because things were great then. But nothing is no different then than now because their children was been being raped, you know. enslaved person was being raped. So what happened to those old white men that was raping enslaved people at that time? Are they held accountable now under the same law? The same thing is still happening. They're raping them of their rights. It's the same thing. Same old white men raping these females of their rights. We don't have a right to say that about female. I don't get involved when it comes down to abortion rights and all that. I ask the female.
Yeah. And here's the picture right here.
That's who's making decisions.
Yeah, and most of I think there's one member who's under the age of 60. All these men are 60 plus, and I think there's one member, and he's barely under the age of 60. All right, and then you have Senator Brad Hutto is the only one I believe who voted against it, and he's on the left-hand side of the screen. He's a Democrat, but these are the men who voted this in the Senate and wanted to eliminate exceptions to incest or rape. Quite frankly, they need to stay out of women's business. On a personal level, I am pro-choice, and there's so many reasons why women have abortions: medical reasons, life-threatening reasons, economic reasons, and we need to really pay attention, y'all. This is not about babies. It's about control and power, and we really need to pay attention to this. And this is why it's so important that you get educated, beyond the propaganda that you hear in the newspapers, and that you vote. It's very important that you vote. And did you talk about the DNA? Did I hear you talk about the DNA? Yeah. Yeah,
there's it says the physician shall preserve a DNA sample from the fetus remains and notify the sheriff's office in the county in which the abortion was performed. That is crazy. And the physician who performs or induced an abortion on a pregnant woman based on the exception. And exception must report the allegation of rape or incest to the sheriff's office in the county in which the abortion was performed. So if a woman go in there under desperation and they say I was raped, it puts them in another precarious position, because they might be at the point where they know they have to have an abortion, and they might not have been raped. So it creates a whole nother situation here. So what happens to the woman that falsified that statement, said I was raped or it was incest? So they just remain in place until the investigation is done, or what happens from that point?
And they're not that many instances of women claiming rape. Let's just be honest, that's a false flag that they use to say that women, we're tempters, we're just tempting men, and if we don't get things our way, we're going to call rape. How many women, come on, y'all would know this. We need to use common sense. We would know this, because your communities, your families and friends. Is this something that's an everyday issue? No, it's not. Not to say it's never happened and will not happen, but there aren't too many women running around calling rape for what purpose? For what purpose? To force a man to give you money, to take care of the child. For what purpose? To bring attention to yourself? You always have to think about motivation. And it's just a false flag when they say, oh, women are going to cry rape, to have an abortion. It just doesn't even make any sense.
It is just crazy, and that's where we are, so it boils right back down to Maryland, vote, because the opportunity is here to vote on people with that mindset. So take advantage of that. Redistricting put us in some positions in the state in a bad position, but here in Georgetown County, we still have the opportunity to vote decent people back into these positions. So we must get educated on those that's running. We have a city council race coming. It's a special election. 2 people have filed in that race. People have to get out and vote. And don't let foolish behavior and foolish statements, stop you from voting. Don't get suppressed by those bad statements and people out there making these hate statements. Know who you're voting for and why you're voting for them. Ask them, why should I vote for you? And have specific. How are you going to affect the electrical bills here? How are you going to affect the tax base here? What are you going to do about affordable housing here? These are the questions that need to be asked to these people that run for these positions. Those are city and county councils' positions. What are you going to do about these jobs that we being forced now trying to close down Georgetown Liberty Steel? That affects people here. That could have been a drastic, devastating situation in Georgetown if Liberty Steel were to close down at the moment it was about to close down. You talk about 65 people that was working will be out of a job that affects another, the average family, 2 to 3 people. So you're right at 300 people right now when you talk with children and grandchildren, some in college, and all these things are affected, because you have foolish people sitting in position in these mayor seats and in these city council seats. And be careful with people who say they're Democrats and working as Republicans, or Republicans say they're working as Democrats. Know their values. If their values are not your value, don't align with your value, don't vote for these folks.
That's true. We got to start really thinking about it and asking those questions. Y'all, I'm going to have to wrap up. But before we wrap up, we got some upcoming events. And let me go ahead and share that screen. We have the Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference coming up. And I'm trying to get to it. Here we go. Yeah. All right. Here we go. I really like this flyer too. Here we go. So this is coming up Saturday, October 15th. And this is a hybrid event. So you could go to eventbrite.com or go to our Facebook page and go to GullahGeecheeFoundation.org and get registered. We are going to be providing babysitting services. We're trying to lower the barriers to knowledge, folks. So we'll be providing babysitting services, and we'll also be providing a working lunch. There is limited in-person attendance. It's limited in-person attendance, but so you need to get registered so we can have you counted. And if you can't attend in person, you can also register to watch virtually from your home, from the comfort of your home or your office. So that's coming up on Saturday, October 15th. What else is coming up?
Hey, October 6th through the 9th, that will be the South Carolina State Conference of the NAACP Convention.
That's right.
In Columbia. That information is coming out now. So just watch our Facebook page. Everyone is invited. Just sign up and register. Also, we have an election coming up in November, the NAACP Georgetown chapter election. That's across the state. November election across the state for NAACP branches. So look for that information if you're watching from other counties in your area. Ask the question, how do I sign up? When do I have to be a member? It's 1 month before election. You need to be a member in order to vote. Remember to vote. All elections will be done by election buddies this year. So get educated and ask your branch, how do I vote? It's important. Check your membership, because you must have a membership ID number to vote. So check your membership cards. That is critical. Tonight, the diabetes program have a gala at the Choppy Center at 6:00. Huge. At 6:00. And I want to go back to Maryland, just the work that you do with the environmental conference in the Gullah Geechee Chamber, which is huge to just the southeastern part of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. It's huge. It brings so much value back to the people in the area and knowledge of what they need to know about not only just the Gullah Geechee culture, but their history and knowledge of the community that they live and the value that's still there, economic value, equitable value that still exists right in the area that they're walking on every day. The land, the sea, everything is value. And how we utilize it is important. There's a cultural trail that's coming through the Platteville area, from Platteville to Choppy. I think we need to look at that. Be careful what we say no to, because it's value there. It's the trail.
We're focused on 3 tracks: cultural, environmental, and energy. In our energy track, we're talking electric vehicles, y'all. Biden just signed the Inflation Reduction Act. There's a huge amount of money out there for tax credits to buy electric vehicles. And we're not talking $100,000 electric vehicles. We're talking about the push to get everyday people like you and I to get electric vehicles. We're going to be talking about electric vehicle charging stations. The plans right now are to focus on interstates. We need charging stations up and down Highway 17, for example, in these rural areas, so we can have access to electric vehicles. If you buy them, you got to have some place to charge them. So much opportunity. So we're going to start that conversation in our community and beyond our community. It's the Delegacy Conference, but it's open to everyone. Just have these conversations about electric vehicles, y'all. It's the future, and we have opportunity to grab a hold of that future and meet some opportunities, get some tax credits. But you got to know about this. We're going to be talking about water quality. We want citizen scientists. You will learn how to test your water quality. And this goes to everyday issues. You see what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi, Flint, Michigan, Denmark, South Carolina, water issues. And water is life. And if we don't have clean water, we are not going to survive, people. Water is under threat. So there's the EPA, they're coming, and they're going to talk about water quality and how you can test the water quality every day at your house. So that if you see something change, you can raise the alarm. I don't think we take water for granted, and water is under threat. The quality of our water, the air quality, what our local communities are doing to address climate change, address loss of wetlands habitat. This impacts us every day, especially along the coast of South Carolina. So y'all come on out to the Delegacy Environmental Energy Conference. Marvin, that's all I have today. I'm going to have to get out of here. I'm pushing it even as we speak. But don't leave. I'm going to talk to you after I close the show, Marvin. But do you have anything before we shut down, before we leave?
No, Merle. I think we've covered pretty much everything for this week. You know, we have a lot of information to come out down the road. But I just thank you for your time and stuff, and I know you're on vacation. And just pay attention to what's going around you. And remember to contact 7 Dimensions. That number, and for SNAPs and social service referral programs, Medicaid and stuff of that nature, because it's huge. That number is 843-904-5323. For housing assistance, 843-790-4075. Thank you so much for your time. And remember to join the NAACP. Join the Gullah-Geechee Chamber of Commerce. Join 7 Dimension. Join these organizations that works for you in your community. To include Club 142 and all these organizations. These are nonpartisan organizations that really works for you. We look for younger people. We got a voters rally that's coming up. We'll talk about that next week once we get all the information straight. But it's going to be huge. That age 17 to 40 is what we are targeting. And we have to get people out to vote. The key is vote. Remember, right. Gathering place on Sunday, great program, great information. There's so much information that just comes out just from the podcast. And Marilyn, you and Ebony and Deontay and the NAACP and the Gullah-Geechee just do a magnificent job. Jackie, just thank you for your service and God bless you. And please, I'm telling the audience to support these organizations. Thank you.
Tomorrow on a gathering place at 4:00, we're going to be talking to some small businesses, and one of our guests is out of North Carolina, because I don't think people realize the Gullah-Geechee Chamber of Commerce is headquartered in Georgetown, but we cover 4 states, from Wilmington, North Carolina, all the way down to Jacksonville, Florida. And tomorrow, one of our special guests for Small Business Sunday is going to be out of North Carolina. They got some things going on up there in North Carolina. And very soon, I think I'm going to have some good news to share with folks, but I'm not in the position to share it yet, but definitely you will be hearing about it. But tune in tomorrow on A Gathering Place, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube Live, and hear about some small businesses and what's going on with them. Marvin, thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's always good to have you on the show. And we'll see everybody next Saturday at 11 a.m. on Spotlight, brought to you by the Georgetown NAACP Branch number 5520. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you, Merle.